is Goldie with Low Vision Chef, and today I'm going to take on one of the things that people ask me about most, besides grilled cheese, is frosting a cake, and how to frost a cake when you're blind or very low vision and you don't want to get fingerprints in the top of it or have fingerprints all over it. Now there are different methods that could be used, but I'm going to just go straight out frosting today. So the first thing you want to do before you begin is take a disc, a cardboard disc or plate, whatever you like, and then lay small strips of parchment paper or wax paper along the outsides where your frosting is going to go down on it, or if you're using like coconut or nuts or something on the sides, that stuff is going to fall down on it, so that when you get done frosting your cake, you've got a clean base and you don't have to, try to figure out where the things went to. So I'll show you how that goes, or talk to you about that as we go along. So to start with, I've got 4 strips of parchment paper laying all around where that cake is going to be placed. Then the next thing I want to do, because sometimes it might help you a little bit if you kind of pull your cake up a little bit, but some glue on the bottom I'm just going to put right in the very center of where the cake's going to go. I'm going to put a little bit of frosting, and that's my glue. The next thing that I want to do is I bake these cakes with some parchment paper on the bottom, just to make it easier for me to take them off. And if they're too high or there's a bump on the top of the cakes, you want to level that off with a serrated knife, a lettuce knife, whatever works for you. And the most important part of this whole process, I'm going to tell you, is that I froze these cakes after I baked them. It does not hurt them. In fact, that's how most bakeries do it. So I'm going to take the cake and I'm going to put it right there in the center of my frosting and give it a little press down on my glue. Okay? And it's surrounded again by my strips of parchment paper. Then next, I'm going to go in the middle of this cake with a couple different things. I'm going to do some pastry cream in the middle, but before I do that, I have a mix of simple syrup, which is just 50% sugar and water and boiled lightly for about probably 5 minutes. And I'm going to take that, and this is going to add some moistness to the cake. Now, if you feel like you need to, you can push the some fork holes in the cake, but I've got a little bit of orange liqueur in here and a little bit of simple syrup. It's up to you what you do or don't use, but simple syrup will add just a little extra moisture to that cake. The next thing I'm going to do is I've got pastry cream, and I'm going to put some pastry cream in the middle of it with I've got a little spoon spatula here, and I'm going to spread it out just a little bit, leaving about, an inch on the outside rim of the cake so it doesn't squish out quite so much. So just put your fingers on the edge of the cake and put your finger in about an inch, and then just let the cream go out about that far as you put it on the cake. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one's going to be seeing this. It's going to be in the middle. Okay? Then the next thing that you want to do after that is this cake round that's going to go on top of the pastry cream, and that did have a little bump on top of it, so I took a serrated knife. I just trimmed it to where it was flat on the top so it was nice and even, so I don't have a lopsided cake. And then I'm going to brush the crumbs off a little bit, and then take the parchment paper off the bottom of it, and I'm going to sit that right on top of the pastry cream as my second layer of the cake. So now we're 2 layers high. Now, even to add a little bit more to this for you, I'm going to take a skewer, your standard skewer that you would cook vegetables on the grill, meat and vegetables on the grill, and I'm going to go down on one side, straight down with this wooden skewer through both layers. Now, that's going to be 2 things. It's going to be a reference point for me. So if I go all the way around the cake, the edges with frosting, I know that I'm at the opposite end, and I don't need to put any more frosting on it. Also, it's going to hold it together, so it's a multi-task purpose to it. Let me wipe my hands off just a tad here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I have this cake on, actually I took my spice rack carousel out so it spins for me, okay? And now I have a pastry bag that I have frosting in. I don't use a real stiff frosting, and that's going to help me to let it go smoothly. I also have frozen my cake, as I said, and those 2 things are going to help me a little bit. It's just going to give me an added advantage. Then I go to the bottom. I'm going to find my skewer. I'm going to go to the bottom where the parchment paper is, and I'm just going to, I could do one of two ways, just go up in some lines all the way around the cake, so I'm distributing with this pastry bag some frosting all around the cake, so then I can just take my offset spatula and I can spread it out, and that way I know that I have my frosting on there to spread, and then I'll just have to even it. And I do these sides first. Okay, so I went all the way around, and I think I can now take my offset spatula. I'm going to find my skewer. Anyway, and then I'm going to go, and you can feel with your offset spatula, which is nice and flat, you can feel how your frosting's going. So because this cake is frozen, you're going to feel a hard surface as you hit it. Okay? You're not going to cut into the cake with it because it's frozen, and that's the advantage to having your cake frozen. So I'm just going to go around the cake and frost it as I go, turning it. I'm actually using my skewer as a turner, and I'm just going to even that frosting out, spread it, and I feel I hit a dry spot here, so I'm going to take my bag, whoops, parchment paper over there fell off, and I'm going to give myself just a little bit more goo and go back to kind of where I felt that I was at, using my skewer as a locator, and just keep going around. Now, I'm working left-handed for myself. So now I'm going over it again, and I'm just going to take that and work it up. So I'm going bottom up, and I'm going around it again in a circle as I spin my little carousel with my skewer. Okay, now to add just a little bit more decorative to this cake, I have the little bakeware buddy. And I'm going to just take a little bit of frosting, and I'm going to put on the bakeware buddy, so I've got some extra here. And I'm going to make little round, I'm going to go around with my skewer, and I'm going to just add little lines. It just gives it a little bit more of a decoration. I kind of bumped up against my cutting board there. Something was keeping me still. So then we're just going to go around with this, making sure we've got plenty of that frosting. Okay, now on the top of the cake, you could do one of two things. You could pipe it, starting from the outside and going to the center, or you could just make a blob in the middle and work out with your offset spatula. I'm going to take just about the same way that I did the other, and I'm just going to add my frosting to the top of my cake. Now you can use a pastry bag, or you can use a parchment bag, or you can just use a spoon and put it on. It's completely up to you. Now I'm going to get my offset spatula again, and I'm just going to start in the middle, and I'm going to work, kind of push it out. Again, you won't cut into your cake. I keep repeating myself because it's frozen. So now I'm going to take my skewer out, which have guided me this whole time. And I'm just going to go, I've worked it out a little bit. Now I'm just going to go around the edge of the cake, spinning as I go. And there you go, your basic frosted cake. Now I'm going to go to the edge, and I'm going to even that up as I spin it. And there we go, one frosted cake, and it's ready to eat. Now I like, because I put pastry cream in the middle of it, I like to put it in the refrigerator and let it chill a little bit. That'll help it all sit together evenly. What I did to get these little bottles that I used for my simple syrup and my liqueur, because I put some orange liqueur and some simple syrup in that, is I just I put them in squirt bottles so that I could just give it a squirt here and there, and that adds a little moisture to the cake. And I use the funnel to do that with the silicone tip, so I could kind of feel it going in and not let it overflow. Of course, use your common sense, or you could use straight up simple syrup, or you could just not do that particular part. You could top this cake with some fruit. You could use, instead of the frosting, do the cake frozen again. As I said, do a chocolate or a white chocolate or whatever type of ganache you want. A ganache rolls down the side of it and it looks really cool. And you don't actually have to frost the sides of it. But there are a couple different ways that we can do the cake. And again, don't forget, if you feel uncomfortable with the sides, put some frosting on there. Just kind of do a nice crumb frost, and that means it doesn't have to be neat. Some people crumb frost the sides of a cake, or crumb frost a cake, which means you put a light layer on it, which gets crummy if you do it from a fresh cake. Put it in the refrigerator or freezer for a little bit, take it back out, and then put another layer of frosting on it, and that's another way to do it. Or, like I said, do the sides with some decorations, some coconut or nuts or that type of thing. Okay, another thing that I want to make sure you realize is now that you have your cake all frosted and it's ready and it feels neat, it looks neat, you think you've done a really good job. If you haven't, add a little more frosting till you feel it really smooth. And then when you're done with your cake like I am, these little 4 pieces of parchment paper strips that I set, just pull them out. They're good for the kids to lick on. Just smoothly and gingerly pull them out. And look at that. For visiting Low Vision Chef, I hope this was helpful, and have a pleasant day and keep cooking or baking in this case.